Story 1. I say more damning things in conversations with my boss than I do on Reddit. Story 2. Not bad. I keep it pretty safe and boring. I would probably get in trouble for my spelling and grammar. Story 3. I know my boss cheated on his wife and I have pictures of the text messages, so I do not worry much about my boss's opinion these days. Story 4. What do you mean? Everything is curated and private now. You can hardly see anyone's post history anymore. Story 5. My boss once thought he had found my Reddit account and had someone charged under the National Securities Act. I discovered his brother, who worked for the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, had used tools intended to keep Canadians safe to spy on employees. I recorded him and learned his brother's name. His brother is still in jail and my now ex-boss, last I heard, is homeless. It turned out he had targeted the wrong Reddit account and a person who lived in American Samoa. He was also listing websites I visited and those usernames, and he ruined lives in the process. Story 6. Content-wise, I'm probably pretty fucked, but I'll stand behind it and argue my case. I could get away with it. Time-wise, I only make fun of people on the internet while I'm getting paid for it, so I'm extremely fucked. Story 7. I don't think my cat knows how to read, so I'm probably okay. Story 8. Extremely. Half of my posts are about quitting my job. Story 9. If she thinks the things I would voluntarily post publicly are the worst aspects of me or the strangest things I am doing, then she is terribly naive. Anyway, she needs me to handle billing, so meh. I am fine. Story 10. Not really. I have some risque material online, but my employer does not fire employees for activities outside of work, especially when I am not representing the company. He probably would not even feel the need to report it to management anyway. Story 11. To be fair, introspection would probably do me some good. Story 12. It depends on which of my Reddit accounts. On this one I am probably okay, but he will see me differently now. I would like him to see my friendly and helpful alternate account, but my not safe for work account would result in my immediate firing at best. Story 13. He would laugh, then try to hide his own. Yes, I see you on Reddit. Story 14. I thought you were an idiot. Then I went through your Reddit. Now I know you are. Story 15. I would be fine so long as he did not check the timestamps against my work calendar. Story 16. Not at all. I really enjoy my job, so I do not have anything negative to say about it. Story 17. I couldn't care less. There is nothing he can do to me. I am in a union shop. This question perfectly illustrates the need for unions. Story 18. I haven't cried over Charlie Kirk's death, so I'll probably get fired and deported. Story 19. I told my boss, and he is very disappointed in me. Story 20. I'm not. To be fair, I do not have a boss. Even when I did, nothing on my account was even vaguely work-related. They might learn more about my marriage than they want to know, but there are no trade secrets, no bad-mouthing of former employers, and no bragging about goofing off while being paid. Could be argued that my wife is my boss. She is aware of everything I have written, although not always aware that I wrote it. I have been scrupulously honest on Reddit, excluding silly threads with obvious sarcasm. There is nothing she can call a lie. Frankly, she sees most of it while I write it anyway. I am fine. Story 21. I guess my coming out happened a few months earlier than I had planned. Story 22. If it is one of two, not at all. If it is the other, it depends on which boss. Story 23. I would love to hear the conversation they have with my union about why I am being fired. Story 24. It depends on which boss found it. The one who thinks memes are a waste of time, or the one who secretly spends 3 hours a day on Reddit. Story 25. Not at all, really. I do not think he would be surprised by much. Story 26. I reckon the amount I masturbate during working hours would be considered a problem. Story 27. It would be a bit awkward because I have complained about a few aspects of my job, but I would not get in trouble. Story 28. I showed my boss Reddit, and he came back after the weekend looking tired and dazed, like Quagmire after he discovered internet pornography. Story 29. I know my boss's Reddit account because he posted a Reddit link on Discord and commented the same thing there, so we would be even. Story 30. Couldn't care less. If they're that uptight, they don't deserve good talent. Story 31. I mostly talk about expensive watches and other nonsense that already bores him. Story 32. No trouble at all. I am the same person online as I am anywhere else. Story 33. I am just as much of a loose cannon in real life as I am on Reddit, so I do not think anyone would be all that surprised, laughing out loud. Story 34. I don't think he knows what Reddit is, but he would probably join the conversations. I wouldn't care. Story 35. If I were to start or lead a large company, I would need to clean up my Reddit history. I do not mind speaking my mind here and being vulnerable, but if they knew how many times I have pushed myself into the cosmos, I would be fired. Story 36. My direct boss? I do not think he would care. Human resources might find me a bit too inflammatory. I also talk about my industry from time to time, and it is not always glowing. They might not like that. Story 37. This motherfucker talks a lot about the Buffalo Bills. Not fucked, though. Story 38. This is my 365,826th account. If it were one of the tarot reading accounts, he would think I was nuts. Story 39. Not at all. I am self-employed. I would give myself a promotion so I could afford the cost of living. Story 40. Why would I be? I stand by everything I write. I don't see a reason to behave differently on the internet. If my boss is not okay with how I think, then so be it. That changes nothing about my job. If it does, he is a really bad boss. Story 41. That is probably good. I am mostly on gaming and wrestling subreddits. Story 42. My boss would agree with me. His boss would have a meltdown. Story 43, maybe a bit perplexed and confused, then a little, oh, it makes sense. Story 44. I'm pretty sure my bosses would be a lot more interesting. Story 45. I had to give my Reddit username and all my other social media usernames as part of my security check, so I guess not. Story 46. My son is legally my boss and he cannot read, so I am good for a while. Story 47. My boss would be chill. They might be concerned that, even online, I never stop talking about Korean pop demon hunters. Story 48. My boss would thank me for being a strong online advocate for our trucking outfit. I am kind of boring, I guess. Story 49. Many people I know in real life found my account because of a viral video I posted. They discovered I am more of a nerd than they expected. Story 50. It depends. Will she find my normal Reddit account or my porn Reddit account? The outcomes are very different. Story 51. You can hide your posts and comments from other users now, so I am in the clear unless I post something in a subreddit they are in and see it. Story 52. I once gave one piece of advice that cast our industry in an unfavorable light, so I will mind my manners. Nothing beyond that would shock anyone on the personal side. My bosses wouldn't care. Story 53. They wouldn't care. I don't post anything interesting. Story 54. My boss at my last job found my Reddit account because a picture I posted ended up on a state government website. They looked through my account to identify who had posted it and saw pictures of my tattoos and some smoking pipes, so I was subsequently drug tested and fired after failing the test. I was able to return 30 days later but lost all my accrued time off. Story 55. I do not have a boss, so they are charged with criminal impersonation. Then I am given a medal for being the world's strongest astronaut. Story 56. Not really. He might just see me as a bigger nerd and a loser. He probably already thinks that. Story 57. He would not care enough to go looking, and I am pretty sure he does not use Reddit anyway. Story 58. Likely not fucked at all. In fact, my boss would probably say I am nicer on Reddit than in person. When asked for my opinion, I do not sugarcoat it. Story 59. I am at a point in my career where I do not really mask with my boss anymore. I doubt he would be surprised by anything I say here. Story 60. It depends. If he is a fan of One Piece Glazer, he is going to torture me for calling Odin dogshitman. Story 61. Why would my boss want to have sex with me based on what I comment or post on Reddit? Story 62. He would have to find me first. Not very fucked, honestly. Story 63. Never say or type anything on social media that you would not say in person. Story 64. Perfectly fine because I am not some terrorist simp advocating for violence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Story 65. Not too much. They would learn a few new things about me that they would likely find amusing, but nothing they could act on or truly care about. Story 66. He would be more upset by how much I used than by the content of the comments. Story 67. I started this account mostly to talk about my favorite video game. People would probably think I am a nerd. Story 68. I am fairly comfortable with everything I have posted on Reddit, as I try to be a reasonable person most of the time. Story 69. I am not. He understands my feelings about certain things, and as long as I do not mention where I work, I am fine. Story 70. I'm pretty sure my boss would want to have sex immediately if they saw my account. Hypothetically, I would be 100% fucked. Story 71. The only scandalous thing here is porn. While I do not discuss watching porn at work, I do not think she would be shocked by the discovery. Story 72. I would be okay because I do not troll behind a screen. I say what I mean. They are well aware. Story 73. My partner stayed over last night, so I am pretty well fucked. Thanks for asking. Story 74. If someone saw my alternate account, I know he would laugh his ass off and tell me I am in the wrong line of work and should be doing porn. Do we not all have a secret porn account? Story 75. Can they tell how much time I spend on Reddit while I am working? Story 76. He would get a laugh out of it and then tell me to do my Indian accent again. Story 77. I made one somewhat politically charged comment on LinkedIn and was notified by my boss and my boss's boss. I received a temporary ban from the Reddit politics subreddit, so I am sure that if they connected the dots I would be in trouble. I am trying to do better, honestly. Story 78. Probably fine. I heard he is getting fired once he gets back from his time off. Story 79. I am as boring here as I am in real life, so not at all boring. Besides, my boss is a 13-year-old girl and she 100% does not care what I do online. Story 80. In trouble? Not at all. We still have freedom of speech where I live. Private matters are not related to work. My boss has nothing to say about that. Story 81. Not much. I don't talk about things that could get me fired online or offline, and I don't have any particularly spicy interests or opinions. What I say online I might be embarrassed to say in person, but I do stand by what I write. At worst, people would see I have emotions and am probably somewhat cringy. But aren't we all? Story 82. I would not be fucked, but they might be for invasion of privacy. Story 83. Moderately. I post a lot in subreddits specifically related to my job. I never use the company name, but someone might be mildly annoyed. I am not especially secretive about my political opinions at work, but I suppose if senior management discovered that I am not a fan of capitalists, I might have some trouble. Story 84. He would probably just laugh or smile. I only follow wholesome content such as Detective Comics and Marvel Comics, and their movie and comic book news. I also follow cat memes, videos, and pictures, as well as other humorous content. I think I'll be fine. Story 85. He will probably question the fake name I chose for him, but I would not say I am in trouble. Story 86. This actually happened to me. He is a chill, respectful guy, and I do not think he ventured much beyond the reply I made to a post that made him think it was me. Even if he had, he would have been fine with it. I generally keep things tame. Story 87. I am fairly consistent. I use slightly more risque humor here than at work, but it is not a major issue. Story 88. Honestly, I would probably get a raise for how much free time I clearly have. Story 89. Pretty fucked, but I'm my own boss and it jives with my profession, so only in the most literal sense. Story 90. I'll be fired if my boss is a man. I might receive sexual favors if my boss is a sexually deprived woman. Story 91. I am fine. My boss is a moron. He will never figure out how to use Reddit. Oh wait, now I would be screwed. Story 92. I have said a few times that I wanted to quit my workplace, which is not ideal. I still show up every day and do my job, so they really are not in a position to fire me. Story 93. I was promoted. My boss is equally sarcastic and understands my sense of humor. Story 94. My boss is pretty flirty. He would be disappointed I am not like this with him. Story 95. They would have to go through hundreds of comments about my love of furry culture before discovering that I maximize my productivity by urinating in the sink. Story 96. How can I be fucked if I'm the owner and boss? When you are the boss, you get to fucking do what you want to do. Story 97. I have not worked for the profit of someone else in almost 10 years. I probably will not do it again. Story 98. Not at all, because you can make everything private now. Laughing out loud. Story 99. He would probably ask me if I am okay and tell me to take advantage of our mental health counseling resources. I have a therapy session scheduled for Friday. Story 100. I spend too much time on autism subreddits, and neurotypical people hate autistic individuals. I also spend too much of that time during work hours. Story 101. Some coworkers outed me to management. They complained I shared things I shouldn't have. I hadn't. Management agreed with me. That was the end of it. Management would not say who ratted me out, but I have some ideas. Story 102. My direct boss is fine. He is cool and we agree on most things. Higher up, depending on how high you go, I could be in serious trouble. Story 103. It depends on several factors. Whether they find it or have access to it and which account. It is all hidden. If they had access to this account, it would be mostly harmless. Access to the other account would be more serious. Story 104. Someone found my main account, and I'm still not sure how. I had to stop using it, although there was nothing too bad on it. I just felt violated, frankly. Story 105. I am not doing anything illegal here, not at all. What I do outside of work is none of my boss's business. Story 106. 0. They already know I like grilled cheese sandwiches. Story 107. I don't think he'd care. I mostly just talk about my birds. Laughing out loud. Story 108. If you're a radical left lunatic like most people here are, you're really fucked. Story 109. A 50-50 chance. I have 1 or 2 vague work complaints here. I would probably be penalized for frequency and time of use, but my boss knows things are somewhat quiet right now. Story 110. He would not care because I am good at my job. That is the only thing he cares about. You can be the sweetest person or the most evil, but if you do your job, he does not care. If you are bad at your job, you are gone. At most, he would make fun of me for using my real name and a pot reference like I am a 14-year-old. Story 111. I would have been fired for my leftist antics long before they would see it on my Reddit account. Story 112. I would not care. They do not pay me to conform to their standards or beliefs in my personal space. Fire me if you want. I will not censor myself for money. Story 113. Well, I am my own boss and I approve my Reddit posts and comments, so all is good. Story 114. My boss is a good guy, but I have said some pretty nasty things that may justify my being fired. Could go either way, although I think he would do his best to treat me right. Story 115. I think he would have very similar opinions, thankfully. Story 116. I am not very sure. On one hand, I am pretty sure she would not care. As long as she could reasonably pretend she did not see, I think she would. On the other hand, I work for a school district and they may not like some of what I say. It is only my side job and I do not actually need the money. I only made about $200 last semester. I am primarily a stay-at-home mom. Story 117. I don't think he could navigate the website well enough to find any of my posts. However, back in the day, a coworker found my live journal and I was called to human resources. That was an education. Story 118. He already knows our views on life and politics are about as polarizing as 2 level-headed individuals can be. I am too valuable to suffer any consequences because of that. Story 119. Not at all. What on earth are you all doing with your Reddit accounts? Story 120. I do not post anything that would get me in trouble. Story 121. Considering my Reddit has my penis on it and my boss is somewhat attractive, this might be a good thing. Story 122. Not at all. I suppose one benefit of going against the typical Reddit hive mind in most threads is that anything I say that could put my job at risk would first get me silenced, deleted, and banned from subreddits, so it would not exist to get me in trouble. Meanwhile, if you had seen how Reddit has been over the past week, you would know this does not apply to many people who think they can freely mock the dead. Story 123. She would probably be shocked to learn that I am in the swinging lifestyle, since we have discussed it on multiple occasions and I have not let on. Other than that, I do not imagine she would be bothered by anything I have posted here. Story 124. This one might get me a performative reprimand because of my complaining, but I know he has posted worse about the company. My alternate account is probably fine unless they can somehow identify me by my genitalia, and the only person in the store who has seen it would not say anything anyway. Story 125. My conceited, I'm the smartest person I know former boss randomly brought up a Reddit-related question in conversation as a sneak attack way of asking if I use Reddit or not. I answered the question, but it did not have anything to do with my Reddit username, so I am not sure what they thought they were achieving other than reinforcing what they already believed. The best part is I talk trash about that asshole here, but never specifically enough to directly identify them, and I really hope they see it. Story 126. Not at all. She already knows I see right through her bullshit. Story 127. They would not care. I do not post anything interesting here. Story 128. I am not sure, but I write about sensitive topics, so I guess it depends on how people feel about my posts. Story 129. I am fine. My chat history is hidden, so someone would have to log into my account or be internet savvy enough to find third-party sites that have that history to see anything. Even if they could, while I am very political, I try to be analytical and reasonable rather than using rhetoric or making personal attacks. Story 130. I have never said anything against my organization and have been helpful to patrons with questions in that subreddit. I do not believe I have posted anything she did not already know. My political views align with hers, so I believe I am fine. Story 131. I am good. I have made a few work-related contacts and helped my workplace with some of what I learned here. Story 132. Most of my shitposts are on Facebook, and I was friends with him there before he became my boss. He laughed. Story 133. There is nothing I can be fired for, and they are the ones who have to look into my shameless eyes afterward. Story 134. Fine. I do not say things online that I would not say in front of my boss. Story 135. Not at all. He knows what I think and say. Life is good here. I think I scare him a little, though. Story 136. I give zero fucks because I omit a lot of details about what I do for a living. Broad strokes only. Story 137. What we are on the internet is very different from who we are in real life, boss. Stop watching my private messages with another adult. Story 138. I have complained about my job here in a general way, but it is nowhere near as much as I complained to my boss directly, laughing out loud. I would probably be okay. Story 139. Ostracized. I am a very liberal construction worker who does not discuss politics at work. Story 140. Use a fake name like mine. Emporia Joplin is made from two town names I picked from a map, Missouri or Kansas, maybe Oklahoma. Story 141. It depends on who. My direct supervisor would probably be fine. The hiring manager and human resources would likely judge me harshly, but they would be hard-pressed to fire me without the place collapsing around us. I somewhat pressured them into giving me a 20% raise 2 years ago after presenting a 20-page document detailing all the inappropriate tasks they had me doing with no training because everyone who knew how to do the work had left. The situation has only gotten worse since then. I may have subtly implied that I might not be able to complete a very important government compliance procedure that no one else knew how to do and that was urgently due, given my current level of investment. I do not clearly recall whether I actually said that or only imagined saying it. But I definitely was not working on the compliance procedure until I received better wages or until the last moment, because it was well outside my defined job description. Story 142. My previous boss did. I received a write-up for publicly discussing confidential company information, which had already been leaked. Management wanted to keep it confidential because many people were going to lose their jobs. They planned to give employees 1 week of notice, although senior management had been warned a month earlier. I no longer work there, unsurprisingly. From what I have heard, the manager who issued the write-up has been fired, as has my replacement. Story 143. They might find out about my unhealthy relationship with vintage cast iron cookware. Story 144. Not fucked. I literally only post about perfume and my pit bull. Laughing out loud. Story 145. I do not share my username with anyone, and I only post what I would say out loud. Story 146. I have made more money from people finding my Reddit account than I could possibly lose if a boss found it. It also helps that I do not have a boss. Story 147. Been there, done that. I've done worse on YouTube and that sin is gone. Story 148. I don't know. He would need a lot of spare time to keep up with how active I am. If he saw timestamps, I might be told off, but I get my work done. I am salaried, so I work my hours just over a longer time frame than the usual 8 to 5, in part because I take breaks and scroll Reddit to clear my mind of work stress, sometimes in microdoses where I scroll for 3 minutes, post twice, and then do not return for hours. As for content, I am careful not to say anything that would get me in trouble by mentioning sensitive work matters. Story 149. I am not, because as soon as I realized that we could hide all our comments and posts, I did it. What is she going to see? My description is accurate. Other than I did not put that I am fat and I am 31 now. Story 150. Someone doxed me to my employer the other day on Reddit, Facebook, and other sites. My employer said I did not violate any policy. Story 151. Normally, no. A couple of days ago, I spoke openly about how we break rules until an auditor comes around, so they might not like that. Story 152. I have several bosses, and none of them would read anything they are not required to. They are too lazy and illiterate to have any reaction to finding me online. Story 153. I don't think I'd have any problems. I work for a major university that is a bastion of liberal thought and all things diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm a liberal atheist, which would hardly raise an eyebrow around here. Story 154. They would know my kinks and the types of women I am attracted to. Other than that, there is not much I would not say in real life. Story 155. My profile is set to private. It would be difficult to find all my comments. I have never said anything negative about her because she is a pretty good boss. Story 156. Mine would be like, yeah, that sounds like her. I'm this way in real life too, laughing out loud. Story 157. He said, oh, interesting. His life is pretty sad. Story 158. It would be fine. I know better than to leave proof of biting the hand that feeds me. It's okay to dislike what you do, but there are healthier outlets than posting online. I stand by the views I post online. If those were what they had against me, then I have better places to be. Story 159. He'd say, what's the deal with all of the Seinfeld postings? Story 160. They would say, yes, you know we have worked together for years and seen some difficult things. This is not even the worst thing I have seen from you this year. For context, 3 months into my new job, somehow a conversation started at the dealership about crazy things we had seen or done, and I did not hold back. Story 161. When I asked for legal advice, it is hard to say. He was probably not amused. I am sorry to say this, but he was gaslighting. Some examples. 1. He told us our work was bad but never explained how or why. He only criticized us verbally at the end of the day, and he only did this with younger or new employees. 2. He told us we should be thankful he had not fired anyone yet and that he was keeping the team together. 3. He told me he needed to take on debt to pay our wages, even though he paid us poorly at 15.22 euros per hour. In my new job, I get 24.64 euros per hour, plus shorter working hours and benefits. 4. He tried to blame me for things he was responsible for. During my training of 3.5 years, he registered me for the wrong test. We needed to build a switching cabinet and a model it could work on. He gave me the wrong documents. I needed to build a boiler that cleans itself, and he gave me whatever he had lying around. When I faced the commission, they told me this was the entirely wrong build. I had put at least 2 months of work into that band model, and then he told me I should have chosen something myself. He was supposed to give me the right documents. How can you mess that up and then try to blame me? I passed only because they made an exception for me. I was the only one. Story 162. It depends on what you've been saying. Saying my boss is a pedophile could be a reason for concern. Story 163. My boss replies to me with Tim Robinson graphics interchange format images. I think I am going to be okay. Story 164. I do not disparage my company. I think they are very good. I do not always agree with everything or everyone here, but it is a good place overall. Story 165. She would probably ask if I am okay and encourage me to take time off work. She would tell me to let her know if I need anything, and that she is available just to talk. She has been open about similar situations, and in the few times we have hung out one-on-one at work functions, she has been reassuring and does not shy away from sharing how things have affected her. Most importantly, she recognizes how hard this is. Yes, I have a really good employer, and after a stretch of bad ones, this is a soft place to land. Story 166. My account is 14 years old. I do not think he has time for all of that. Story 167. I showed it to my boss, who said, "Keep up the good work. I am my own boss." Story 168. For the most part, he would say that what I do and say outside of work has nothing to do with him, except for comments I have made about sleeping, watching Netflix, and gaming while at work. Even then, he would probably pretend he did not see them, so I am fine. Story 169. She would look at me strangely from now on, but I think I would be okay. Story 170. They already know I am a populist, leftist ideologue. Ban guns. Story 171. Not bad outside. He learns how much I have spent on clothes. Story 172. Not very much. I had a separate adult account, but that account has been wiped clean. This account has never posted to any adult communities. Story 173. It is okay. He is my friend anyway, and I do not rant online about him or anyone else. Story 174. I am self-employed, so not at all. Previous bosses would not have cared either. I have nothing here to hide. Story 175. Work phone. There is no legal obligation to hand over my personal phone. Story 176. I am not a very controversial person, but she would be disappointed to learn that I am a completely different person than I appear to be. She would know I was faking it at work. Luckily, laws in my country make sure you cannot be fired for having different opinions. I have a good relationship with my boss, though. She would probably just ask me to be my true self at work. Story 177. They would be surprised that I spent some time here. They would not mind since I am doing my job well, but I am quite bored right now because I took a less stressful position while pregnant and postpartum. I could spend less time here, but there is nothing more useful I can do besides reading books, and pregnancy brain makes it difficult to learn effectively. Story 178. She would think my dog obsession is worse than she expected. Yes, my 6-year-old golden doodle comes to work with me. Story 179. I hate my job for real, but I complain about it on that dead blue bird app. Reddit is for not real life shitposting for me, so I don't think my boss would care. Story 180. I made my post and comment history private, but even if it were not private, my boss does not really care about that. I am not doing anything wrong. I have not expressed any grievances about my job on Reddit that he is not already aware of. Story 181. No. I would be very surprised if I participated. Story 182. That depends on the boss. My direct manager, who supports Make America Great Again and is reportedly on the verge of being fired for sexual harassment and for promoting religion in the office, would be furious about my political views. Human resources and other higher-ups in my company would probably not be too concerned as long as I did not share those views with colleagues. I have not posted anything extreme on this account, and the higher-ups seem to like me. Story 183. I am not fucked at all. This is not because I keep things safe with my posts and comments, but simply because my boss would not give two shits and has no reason to care. Story 184. They already think I am a weirdo, and my posts would not be shocking. The worst part would be if they cross-referenced my posting activity with my work schedule. Story 185. He would probably give me a high five and tell me I have interesting taste in topics. He seems like a cool person. I would not mind him reading my Reddit or 4chan posts. Story 186. Not at all, because I deleted my old one and created a new one. Story 187. Not fucked at all. Fuck them. I cannot control what I do outside work on my own phone. Story 188. I think he would be amazed at how kind I am to him and how often I post pictures of our cats. Story 189. I am pretty sure my comment history is hidden now, so I am not worried. Previously, I was not worried because I do not have a boss. Story 190. I am confident that I do not type anything I would not say in person. Story 191. It does not matter. My Reddit posts have no indication of my ability to perform my job. Story 192. Been there, done that. It's one of many reasons I have a new profile and no job. Laughing out loud. Story 193. I live in a country that still values personal freedom, and I am represented by a union. Not oppressed. Story 194. Depends on the day. My boss will not have time to read that much nonsense anyway. Story 195. Every work-related post I have made since I started my current job says how much I love it, mainly because my boss is a great person. Story 196. Meh. My boss forgot I exist. As for our IIO department, I am glad they do not peruse the firewall logs. Story 197. It's chill. My boss literally agrees with me on everything because I'm self-employed. Story 198. My friend was apprehended after the organization found his Reddit account. They then accessed his WhatsApp account, which led to further arrests. Story 199. That would be me. I would probably have to promote myself. Story 200. I am okay unless he hates jigsaw puzzles and Trader Joe's. Just kidding. Story 201. I would be shocked if he had the time, patience, or interest to read a tiny fraction of what I say, laughing out loud. Story 202. These days it would not cause much trouble. 2 or so years ago, however, it would. Story 203. I have my posts and comments hidden. If my bosses discover my username, they will only see my most recent comment, which depends on the post. Story 204. He now knows what kind of shows and books I am interested in. He really could have just asked me. Story 205. This is less problematic than finding their Reddit profile based on their everyday posts. Story 206. He would find out how much I complain about the company and the job on the subreddit called anti-work. I never say anything bad about my boss, but rather about the way corporate runs things, which I know is not his fault. Story 207. There is an option to hide all your posts, comments, and communities in the profile settings. Others would only see my username and karma. Story 208. If they like wrestling, video games, comics, and Star Wars or Star Trek, I may have found a new buddy. Story 209. I am my own boss. I pull myself into human resources and tell myself to get a life. Story 210. I use my name as my tag, so I do not post anything I would not post on Facebook and similar sites. Some people on Reddit are just freaks. Story 211. As a black woman from the Netherlands, I often lie on Reddit so people do not know it is actually me. Story 212. It depends whether I work for a bigot. If they are a proud racist, I would probably have a problem. Story 213. My boss is cool. He is religious, but he does not expect everyone who works for him to be religious. He just wants us to do a good job and does not care what we do after work as long as it does not affect our work. I have no reason to speak ill of the company where I work because I am happy there and have no complaints. Story 214. Only your job performance should matter. Story 215. Not fucked. He would just see how I really feel on the inside. Story 216. At the moment, not at all. I think I am doing pretty well so far. Story 217. I would be shocked by my own viewpoints and what I have written. I am my own boss. If I were not, I would be more careful to hide who I am to maintain plausible deniability. Story 218. She would be more surprised by my openness about my mental struggles and how outspoken I am here. At work, I stay quiet and speak to no one. Story 219. He might throw me out, but he would be doing me a favor because I hate him. He might not do it, though, because he has a hard time finding a replacement for me. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.